And hello, everyone. Welcome in our episode of Next in Commerce podcast. And I have a special guest today with me. So we are very honored to welcome Damani, Director of Product Management at Walmart today. Hello, Karishma.
Hi, very nice to see you and welcome everybody.
Yeah, let me start with my own. We are having today a seasoned product and growth leader with almost 20 years of experience across e-commerce, marketing, and subscription-based B2C businesses. And I believe that what your superpower is that you are bringing to the team the proven track record of driving business and customer value through some strategic thinking, execution excellence, and deep focus on monetization. And did I hit it right?
Yeah, absolutely. You covered it better than I would do. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And to be clear, we're going to discuss today intentional commerce, as you mentioned, from transaction to trust. And we're not going to be talking specifically about Walmart cases, but more like the broader trends on the market, what's going on, about some good examples of this intentional commerce, and yeah, basically what it's like to drive these kind of things at the market
Yeah.
right
Okay.
now. Yeah, yeah. So let's start with the really basic definition of like what should be thinking when I hear the intentional commerce. What is like what is that?
So when we think about intentional commerce, it's essentially the shift from optimizing for transaction speed to really optimizing for smart decisioning, right? On decision quality, right? It's really about helping the customers make the right decision with clarity, with confidence, and less regret. Now, if you think about e-commerce for a long time, right, it's been optimizing for speed. And when we talk about speed, it is about fewer clicks, faster checkout, minimal distractions, right? But now speed is table stakes, right? What is really a differentiator is confidence and trust, right? And so the intentional commerce is really saying that the best experience is the one that helps the customer make the right choice for themselves. Right
Okay.
decision
Yeah.
is
Mhm.
equal to less impulsive behavior, essentially.
Okay, that's super interesting. So we shouldn't be chasing speed anymore. We should be chasing trust. And why do you think it's like this is becoming such an important topic right now?
I do want to clarify. Speed is a table stakes. So we will always have to chase speed, right? That is not a differentiator anymore. The differentiator is what you do for the customer and the confidence you give to them as they make the purchase, right? Now, going on to your question of why is it important right now? There are two things that are happening, right? One is the customer has evolved, and the second one is economics broke, right? Now let me walk through each one of them separately. Let's talk about customers, right? Who are these customers of 2026, right? These are the customers who are just absolutely spectacle, right? They are skeptical in because while they've been in the digital commerce for some time and they have faced these numerous retargeting ads, they have seen fake reviews, they have seen product pictures, and they've bought those products. And when these products arrive at the doorsteps, they look different, they feel different from what they have seen, right? So these customers are a little bit skeptical, right? If you think about the old customer really operated on trust, but this new customer really operates by evidence. So think about this customer who has to now make a purchase. What is this customer going to do? Go to the product page, take the product details, go to Reddit, go to YouTube, go to Instagram. They are going to investigate and make a decision. Right? That is the customer that we have in 2026. And that is because this customer is really looking to buy the right product with lots of trust, right? Now let's shift to business. What's going on with businesses, right? For a long time, frictionless e-commerce essentially helped we increase the value, the top line growth, right? Taking the customer from desire to checkout within seconds was celebrated to a large extent, right? Optimizing for speed was also celebrated. But when you optimize for speed, actually what you're doing is You are optimizing for that impulsive behavior. You're optimizing for bad decisions, right? And what happens when you have bad decisions, right? That leads to really negative consequences for certain businesses. Um, you think about more returns, more cancellations, lower loyalty, and lower retention. Essentially, what this is doing is this is taking the business and taking the business into a new cost center that they had not imagined earlier. So now, if you think about both the sides, customers as well as businesses, right? What's going on here is that intentional commerce, essentially, the businesses need intentional commerce because frictionless commerce is very expensive. Customers need intentional commerce just because frictionless buying is essentially leading to not so trustworthy product. So that's where we are right now.
Okay, this is super interesting. Obviously, I think I'm guilty, as probably part of our audience, of this, like making purchases on autopilot or very instant. Uh, this impulse buying is obviously not a new thing to me, unfortunately. But I was thinking, so to somehow rephrase what you've just said, is that basically one team was super happy and celebrating, yes, we have a top line growth and we hit our
Yeah,
quota for this quarter. So I
absolutely.
remember this for example, for the companies publicly traded, this was like the quarter after quarter they were hitting the top line growth. And what you were saying is that some other team was not so happy about it because they have a lot of more, like, product being returned just because they were purchased too quickly.
Absolutely. So if you think at the enterprise level, at the most uber level for an enterprise, it's hurting the business more, right, than really helping. So yes, one team might be celebrating, right, but at the end of it, when you look at the business overall, it's not helping the business as much.
Super insightful to have that the insight, so thanks for that. Is like, I believe that the first one is easy to grab because you see it instantly on your top
Absolutely.
line chart, and
Yeah.
then all the costs are delayed because it's like not so accumulated in time. It's just, delayed cost later. So
Yeah.
you're probably not that fast in recognizing what's happening underneath,
Yeah.
what's really going on. Yeah.
Let me give you an example actually. So Amazon, when you think about Amazon, that is the symbol of frictionless e-commerce, right? So
Yeah.
many years ago, Amazon came up with the concept of one-click checkout. The customer looks at the product, right? They are already logged in. Let's go ahead and let the customer check out immediately. So they optimize for speed, right? As they started scaling, they realized that the optimizing for speed is not going to help them as much, right? Because there's a lot of mistakes that are happening when it comes to payment confirmation, address confirmation, even to a certain extent, because there is no pausing for the customer, impulse buy, right? So now if you look at Amazon, what have they done? Instead of one-click checkout, they have two-click checkout, which basically is nothing but buy now. You go on the product page, there is buy now. As soon as you click on buy now, there's a confirmation screen that shows up, which is, hey, can you confirm this is the right address, is the right payment method, and you want this purchase, right? So essentially that giving the customer the time to reflect, the time to verify, and to really question their judgment helps businesses at this point, right? And helps the customer as well in the process, right? You don't have million goods that are sitting outside your doorstep to be returned, right? So that saves you energy as well. But overall, for business, it is really helping going with this new fundamental.
Right. When we are discussing this shift, who would you say is really driving this shift? Is it like is it really customer, or the shift is coming from companies that recognize, oh, okay, we have a problem with that kind of behaviors?
I would say both. It's both, right? As I said, if you go back to our first question of, right, it's as time has evolved, right, companies have evolved and digital commerce has evolved, right? It's the customers have realized it's no more about me wanting to buy the product quickly, but I really want to purchase the right product for myself, right? And the companies have also realized that helping the customer make the right decision with right clarity and confidence is going to actually help them more. So it is a balance of both, right? If you think about a customer, what they want is really ease of making the purchase, but they also want clarity, no confusion. They want personalization, but no manipulation, right? All of those, right? Customers of 2026 are very, very clear of what they want. And the businesses have to now adapt to what business customers are telling by evoking certain experiences along the journey of the customer, right? There are certain pauses, there are certain clarity points that the companies drive with the customers, just allowing the customer to imbibe as they are moving along the journey. Let me take an example. A lot of retailers at this point, when you go through their discovery and consideration phases and you're on a product page, they will tell you, uh, this size runs large, right? This product runs large, so get a smaller size, right? They understand the customer, right? They also give you notification around this product is frequently being returned, so keep that in mind. Now, those are the pauses and the friction that were never there in the past, right? The new customer really appreciates those kind of friction because that allows the companies and the customers to get into a very, very strong trusted relationship, right? Another example I would like to cite, when the customer goes through, let's say the customer has a $200 cosmetic cream jar in their checkout. While they are doing the checkout, the companies are very smart at this point. They are sending and giving a notification to the customer saying, you purchased this jar last month. Generally, one jar will last for 2 months. Are you sure you want to purchase this? What did you do at this point? You are absolutely telling the customer, hey, customer, my brand and my company is on your side. We are going to help you make the right decision, even though it comes at the cost of my immediate revenue. We are absolutely building that trust because we've all realized building that trust and building that value is going to help with a long-term relationship, with a long-term retention metrics and loyalty, essentially.
Oh, that's super interesting also because so it feels like in the after frictionless era and the age like of everything being frictionless, we are now discussing some kind of friction paradox, right? So we often talk about friction as if all friction is bad, but what you're saying is that that's not really true. So we have this like kind of different types of friction, right? So you were just saying like slow times, like the obviously bugs are not things to celebrate, but then you're saying that we have some kind of strategic friction, right? The valuable kind of friction that helps both companies and customers.
That's right.
Okay, okay.
That's exactly.
Yeah. So can we go through these like types of friction that you see on the market?
Yeah. Generally, if you think about frictions, right, you can categorize that into three different categories, right? The first one is stoppable friction. So think about this customer who has a credit card opened and they're ready to make a purchase. They've gone through the whole consideration phase, decided what they want. But as soon as they go on to checkout and the checkout, what happens is multiple buttons stop working, the page is not loading, there's rage click that is happening. Essentially, you're not allowing a customer who's absolutely has high intent to make a purchase. That is called stoppable friction, bad friction, needs to be removed. Think about the second category, distracting friction, right? And we've all gone through distracting friction all the time, right? Think about, again, the customer is ready to make a purchase, right? They have these million pop-ups that come up, right? Do you want 10% off? Do this, right? Do you want there are multiple banners on the top. This is just clutter everywhere, right? What does it do to the customer? It essentially gives them decision fatigue, right? You are taking away their energy and the tension that they require to complete the purchase. Bad friction, remove it. But the third friction, as you very, very well mentioned, is purposeful friction. That's a strategic friction, right? That essentially helps the customer make the decision at the right time. and with clarity. So the pauses that you bring in, the confirmation that you bring in, the verification that you bring in, all of those helps customer make the right decision, right,
Yeah.
as they move along. And that eventually helps both the customers as well as business. It really helps both their outcomes and for their long term, and helps build their long term relationship.
Okay, so that's what we are calling purposeful friction.
That is
That would
purposeful.
be,
Yes,
yeah,
that is purposeful friction, where there is a purpose to include and bring that friction in customer journey, right? So, for example, we just talked about the $200 jar cream, right?
yeah,
That was purposeful friction that was brought in, right, to nudge the customer. Hey, if you buy this again, I think you will have much of a lot of what you already have right now. Or when you have or what Amazon's doing with buy now, bringing in the confirmation screen, purposeful friction again, right? They want to make sure that the customer gets a pause, and they get a second to reflect their purchases, right? That is again purposeful friction. Many such examples around purposeful frictions.
hmm on our prep call, you were mentioning like this system thinking, right? So I would love you to explain in a little bit more detail to our audience, like the system one and system two thinking when
Yeah.
it comes to psychology terms behind purposeful friction.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you think about what's going on in customers' head while they are making decisions, right? A very, very renowned psychologist, Daniel Kahneman, said there is system one thinking and there's a system two thinking, right? And most of the customers in digital commerce, they are making decisions based on system one thinking. So let's go into what is system one thinking. It is very fast thinking, very impulsive, emotional, and really making a decision on the spur of the moment, right? Whereas system two thinking is with a pause. It is slower. It allows you to be analytical. It allows you to kind of reflect and then make a decision. Now, as you think about frictionless commerce, right, that was very much in system one thinking. The goal there was to allow the customer to complete the purchase as fast as possible, right? So the customer did not have the time to think, and it was a lot of impulsive purchase. Where you think about system to thinking and allowing and bringing in the right friction at the right time in the right part of the journey essentially leads the customer to reflect, to go back and think about if that's the right decision for them, right? So think about really getting that notification of, again, going back to the jar example, right? Do you really need this product, right? That essentially gives you a pause and you're reflecting and thinking if I need it, right? You may close it and say, I don't need it, or you may move forward, but at least you're making the right decision for yourself. And that could lead to lesser cancellation, lesser returns eventually.
I'm just thinking about my own behavior, and I'm trying to figure out where I am right now with the posing. Is it, do I really appreciate the companies that are taking this direction, or am I kind of frustrated by, why are you making me pause and, not click and buy instantly? Why you keep asking me these questions about delivery? Am I sure? What do you mean? And so on and so forth. But this is super interesting point, how to calculate the benefits of yeah, of both. Yeah.
I do want to call out that if you keep adding these kind of pauses, it's not always going to work out, right? So there has to be a balance, right? And the companies over time, with their experiments, with the learnings of their customer, with personalization, should know exactly where should those pauses be, right? If you have like multiple pauses along a journey, not going to help you, right? It is absolutely, to me, that is a distraction than really helping me complete my purchase, right? What's
Yeah.
important is to have those pauses at the right time to really take the customer into the right direction, right? So I think there has to be a balance. It's not overdoing it, right? Because otherwise you're losing the customer completely.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because basically what you just said is just, make me just stop and think about, like, how do I make my own purchases? How do I react to different notification? And obviously, like, all these bugs, irritating, they should be removed. That's what my company is helping other companies to fix. But in this purposeful, like, friction, this is super, super interesting and very insightful comment and approach and direction. Yeah, I agree that you need to have some kind of balance, and I believe that in the bigger organization is easier to see the patterns, right? So easier to test different scenarios, and easier to see the pattern when the friction is good and when it's like becomes again irritating and
That's
first.
exactly right.
Yeah.
So if you go back to your question around what are the different kind of frictions, right? Like to me, what you mentioned is very much distracting friction. So as I said, distracting friction, stopping friction, they are table stakes. They have to be removed without a doubt, right? But when it comes to purposeful friction, the company has to test a few times. They have to run a couple of experiments to really understand if that is really helping the customer, right? But eventually going towards that direction, helping the customer, and the way the company, a particular company, would help me versus how they will help you is going to be very different, because they have different data on the both of us, and they have learned different things. The personalization approach is very different from the both of us, right? So it is not going to be the exact same thing, but that can be learned over time as the customer continues to make a purchase and with that particular brand.
Okay, so basically what we are trying to, well, what probably we would love to see is some kind of great intentional commerce experience in every company that sells stuff online or basically sells services online. And I think what you've just said is like, it should feel easy but not careless, right? So the experience, like, so clear, not confusing, personalized, but not
Manipulative.
manipulative, or probably not. Sometimes people are scary, right? So they say, okay, so iPhone is listening, WhatsApp is listening, Facebook is listening, TikTok is listening, every app I have on my phone is listening to what I'm revealing to my spouse, partner, kids, family, and they don't want to have probably that thought while doing purchasing, right?
You're exactly right.
So if you're saying that the success of commerce should not be measured only by whether the customer clicked buy, but whether they still feel good about that click later on, where would you say this kind of intentional commerce experience matters the most across the customer journey?
Actually, it matters across the entire journey, right? We went through certain examples around discovery and consideration, where the companies handholded the customer into saying, "This size runs large, right? So buy a smaller size," right? That is during discovery consideration. Cart and checkout, right? They need simplicity. Simplicity matters the most, because that's where you're going to remove your card and you're going to give that information to the customer. Simplicity matters, and that's what intentional commerce has to do. But a lot of times I feel like when we talk about post purchase, right, that's an overlooked part of intentional commerce, right? But that is also one of the most important part of intentional commerce. So think about really the customer has purchased the product, right? Now at this point, really giving the customer the right communication, the right guidance on how to use the product, the helping them to set up that particular product, right? All of that leads to is considered intentional commerce, right? Helping the customer use your product essentially. So think about an example around Duolingo. Duolingo does a fantastic job of giving you free trial. It's very easy, extremely frictionless. Get the free trial, and you can, from downloading from the app to really running and opening the app, it will take you seconds to get onto it. As soon as you have the product on your phone or any device, it takes full accountability. It takes the accountability, and it holds not just itself as accountable, but also the customer as accountable or for learning. My son is learning Hindi right now, and so the number of times he gets, that he gets push notification, he gets a lot of he gets messages around, wanting to kind of boost him up and say, hey, let's go, we will learn this together. The streaks, the hearts, the notification, all of that, we could call it friction, right? But what actually is happening is Duolingo is trying to is showing the value that it drives by pushing my son to learn what he said he will take out time and he'll be accountable for, right? So it is friction, absolutely, right? You're constantly getting pain, you are getting push and nudges to complete your streak, but what you're doing in the process is you're actually providing value to the customer. That's a good friction. That is very purposeful friction, right? um what's the
Yeah,
other?
and we were discussing also, I believe, Netflix with their cancellation flow.
Yes. With Netflix and its cancellation flow, what Netflix does is it doesn't make exiting impossible, right? What actually it does, it provides a very reflective moment for the customer. So when you go onto Netflix wanting to cancel, it gives you a screen and says, hey, you have these many shows, these many profiles, right? Are you sure you want to cancel? It's not being pushy, but it is really giving that 1 second, 2 seconds of reflective moment to the customer to really make the right choice, right? That is purposeful friction, right?
Yeah.
Netflix may lose the customer there, right? But what it's doing in the process is really not controlling, but at the same time allowing the customer to be reflective.
That's so much true. I probably went 2 or 3 times already through this Netflix cycle,
Yeah.
like of considering, like, so I canceled a couple of times and then um, came back to Netflix. But yeah, they weren't like that, trying to scare me or, tell me that, okay, are you sure you're gonna lose everything that you had on the platform? But they say, okay, we understand that you need to go for any reason. That's fine. And then gently trying to tell me what I probably will be missing from not using Netflix. Any other examples comes to mind?
Uh, I have one more example, which is, and that is a little bit focused on. Let's talk about Chewy, for example, right?
Okay.
Chewy allows for subscription products for, and one of their biggest categories, pet products. And when Chewy realizes that a long-time customer who is on auto ship, which is their auto subscription, cancels the subscription, right? They do send condolence notes. They do send flowers to their customers, uh, expressing thank you for being their long-term customer, but also sorry that their pet passed. What and Chewy does this by it's extremely human for them to do something like this. Now, if you think from business perspective, it is actually adding friction to the business, right? Because it is the human has to come into role, and they are sending human written notes to all of their customers. But what they're doing in the process is they are building that long-term relationship with their customers. The customer will come back and they will hold Chewy in a high regard, right? So very, very, very powerful for the businesses to do that, to build that long-term relationship and retention with the customers, right? One other example on a site which is really thinking of the business outcomes, Dunkin' Donuts. A lot of the customers are the daily customers, right? They're on the way to the office, they would buy coffee. And so Dunkin' actually wanted to run an experiment where they came up with a system where the customer who a repeat customer and buy almost the same thing, right? They don't they just have to, they will send them a notification in the morning. They will tap and say, yes, I'm interested in getting this product. And they don't even have to open the app. They don't have to go to the menu, nothing at all. They just tap and they get the product, right? Their coffee. What Duncan has thought that this frictionless commerce, that entire journey is going to help them with revenue increment, right? What actually happened is inverse, right? The revenue dropped drastically in that experiment. So they did a research wanting to understand what might be going on. And what they realized is while the frictionless journey helped the customer drastically, right, when it saved them time, it took away the moments of discovery, the moments of really upselling, right? Where somebody who is on the conversation side, the person at the window will say, do you want a hash brown? Or with the customer is at the window, they are going through the menu and say, hey, they have a new donut. Let me purchase that. So all of those upsell opportunities just absolutely vanished and did not help the business, right? So as we think about intentional commerce, we got to think about how both the customer outcomes as well as business outcomes, right? And we have to nurture and put our journey in a way which helps with both those outcomes, right? Which is where the balancing act comes in play, right? No distraction, but at the same time, balancing it in a way where you're helping the customers, but you're also helping your business both parallelly.
This is amazing example. So to wrap up, the future of commerce isn't about removing every second of friction. It's just
Exactly.
about, yeah, using the right moments to help people make better decisions. My guest today was Karishma Damani from Walmart. Thank you very much for your time. Speed got us here, but trust is what will take brands forward. Thank you so much for your
Absolutely.
time.
Thank you so much.